Stamps may seem like nothing more than boring little squares you lick and stick on an envelope before tossing into the mailbox. But what if I told you they've been at the center of international scandals and military operations and have had a hand in deciding where the world's most important canal was built? From anarchists creating fake stamps to ones that doubled as vinyl records, the world of postage is far more fascinating and stranger than you'd ever imagine. I'm Mike with List 25, and today I'm giving you 25 really fascinating facts about stamps. You'll never look at your mailbox the same way again. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Really helps the channel. With that being said, let's go. 25. The Elvis Stamp. One of the quirkiest things to ever happen to the American Postal Service was the fan reaction to the 1993 Elvis Presley commemorative stamp. It was created to honor what would have been the singer's 58th birthday, and it was an instant hit. The stamp gained huge popularity, and took off even more when Elvis fans decided to take things to the next level. They mailed envelopes to fake addresses, knowing they'd be marked "Return to Sender" and given right back to them. This ode to Elvis's hit song turned mail into a collector's item and is still a huge sensation, with many people always on the lookout for anyone selling one of these envelopes. It was a cultural phenomenon at the time, and not just for Elvis fans, but for stamp enthusiasts as well. 24. Lady Liberty Forever Lawsuit. Another fun fact about the US Postal Service is that they had one heck of an oopsie moment back in 2010 when they issued the new Forever stamp. They thought they struck gold with this stamp featuring the Statue of Liberty, except that it didn't exactly feature her at all. The photo on the stamp was a snap of the replica statue that stands outside the New York Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. How could people tell? The replica sculptor, Robert Davidson, had distinct differences that included a more modernized face, and it was copyrighted. So not only did the USPS use the wrong statue, but it also used one that got them sued. Davidson took issue with the service and went before a judge. After years of legal battles, the court ruled in his favor to the tune of $3.5 million. The best part? No one noticed the mistake for months, and billions of those stamps were printed and sold before the error was discovered. 23. Marianne Stamp. France proudly unveiled their Marianne Stamp in 2013, which kicked off a whole campaign to abolish it. Why, you may ask? Marianne was a figure who symbolized liberty in the French Republic, who was traditionally depicted with bare breasts as a sign of freedom. While one would think covering her up was the controversy, it wasn't. The uproar came as people expressed their fury that the new depiction was inspired by Ukrainian activist Inna Shevchenko. She was the leader of Femen, known for staging topless protests to fight against sexism, authoritarianism, and even religion. As you can imagine, a right-wing Christian group promptly condemned the choice and argued it was radical and inappropriate, and called for a boycott of the stamp. 22. Rare British Guiana Stamp. The rarest stamp in the world is a tiny piece of paper that's worth more money than most people will ever dream of having. I'm talking about the 1856 British Guiana 1-cent magenta. The stamp was created because the colony was running low on regular British stamps. Over the years, the limited number that were created faded from existence, with only one lone known stamp surviving all these years. And it's worth way more than a penny. At first, it sold for a mere 6 shillings. Then it was traded for £120, followed later by a bid of £150. It didn't take long for this rarity to start making its owner a pretty penny, bringing in a staggering $36,000 US, and later for $280,000. Oh, but that is not where it ended. In 2014, a collector paid a staggering $9.48 million for it. 21. Belgium Chocolate Stamp. Leave it to Belgium to take stamps to a delicious new level. In 2013, they released a special edition honoring their world-famous chocolatiers. They released 500,000 stamps that were created with a chocolate scent and even chocolate-flavored adhesive. It's not every day you get to truly enjoy licking a stamp. The novelty design was meant to celebrate Belgium's global reputation for being the best of chocolate making. It definitely drew attention worldwide as one of the most creative and delightful tributes to the country's heritage. This is definitely a stamp that collectors and candy lovers can get behind. 20. Underwater Stamp. Have you ever wanted to mail a postcard from the ocean floor? Well, if so, Vanuatu has you covered. The island nation is home to an actual underwater post office. No, I'm not kidding. This is real, and it's one of the coolest hidden features on Earth. Located about 50 meters off the Hideaway Island shore, it sits a staggering 3 meters below the surface and welcomes divers and snorkelers to mail waterproof postcards right from the sea. The office is staffed by people in scuba gear who even have their own special embossed cancellation stamp that works underwater. It's not just a quirky tourist attraction, it is a fully functioning postal service. 19. POW Olympics Stamp. In 1944, World War II was in full swing, and lives were being threatened, destroyed, and lost. The Holocaust was horrifying the world. The war was tearing families apart, and the Olympics were cancelled. Polish prisoners of war who were held inside a Nazi POW camp refused to let their horrific circumstances get them down, though. Despite the harsh conditions, they staged their own Olympic opening ceremony. They created a flag from a bedsheet and even staged athletic events to maintain their dignity and boost morale. As part of the games, the camp's postal service even issued a commemorative stamp to mark the festivities. To this day, these stamps are a powerful reminder that the human spirit will always find a way to persevere. 18. The Flintstones Stamp. Over in Colorado, there's a tiny post office in the city of Bedrock that became an unlikely hotspot for the Flintstones fans. People from all over the country sent letters addressed to Fred, Wilma, and Barney. Oh, no Betty. Alright. The volume of fan mail grew so large that the post office had to act. The solution? They created a special rejection stamp specifically for those letters. When an envelope shows up addressed to a Flintstones character, it gets marked Return to Sender, fictitious cartoon character, and sent back. The practice turned the small-town postal service into a lighthearted footnote in history. It's probably the only place in America with a stamp designed to tell you cartoon characters can't actually receive mail. But we here at List 25 can, so Mike at List 25, go ahead, shoot me some stuff. I read it when I can. I'll admit I've been extremely busy lately, but seriously, I do read it. 17. Bhutan's Phonograph Stamp. The Kingdom of Bhutan decided to get wildly creative with the country's postal stamps in the 70s and released something the world had never seen before. In 1972, they released playable phonographic stamps. These weren't just our regular lick and stick ones. They were thin plastic discs that didn't just look like vinyl records, but kind of were. When you placed one on a turntable, music would actually play. You'd hear Bhutanese folk songs, the national anthem, and even recordings of the country's history and culture. In no time, the stamps captured worldwide attention and became a hot collector's item. I mean, who wouldn't want postage that doubles as an album? It's one of the most innovative uses of a stamp ever conceived. 16. Apollo 15 Postage Stamp. Why this one's not number 15? I don't know, but here we go. The Apollo 15 mission became infamous in 1971 for its historic moon landing. But did you know that the astronauts did more than just explore the lunar surface? They carried 398 stamped envelopes aboard the spacecraft without NASA's approval. The plan was arranged by a German stamp dealer. The crew agreed to bring them back from the moon mission so he could sell his space-flown collectibles for huge money. NASA discovered the scheme, and it marked a major scandal. The agency considered it a massive breach of trust. The flight crew didn't face criminal charges, but they did face pretty severe consequences. James Irwin, Alfred Worden, and David Scott were all reassigned to non-flight duties, and their careers in space were over. Over. 15. San Marino's stamp economy. San Marino may be one of the smallest countries in the world, but it's turned stamps into a major revenue stream. This tiny republic has used stamps as a source of income and a way to promote itself across the global stage. Stamps from there are highly collectible and often feature elaborate limited edition designs that connoisseurs can't resist. In fact, they are so sought after that international enthusiasts purchase them in massive quantities, even if they have no intention of using them for mail. It's estimated that the country makes about 10% of its revenue from this venture. Stamp sales are taken so seriously that the government even has a Secretary of State position to oversee the practice. 14. Nicaragua's Erupting Volcano Stamp. Back in 1902, the US government decided to build a canal connecting the Atlantic and the Pacific. Nicaragua was the initial top choice. However, a clever lobbying campaign changed everything, and it involved postage stamps. Allow me to explain. At the time, a Nicaraguan penny stamp featured the active volcano Momotombo dramatically erupting. Opponents of the plan, who wanted Panama instead, saw that and did something rather brilliant, even if it was a little shady. They sent these stamps to the US congressman as a visual warning of the volcanic dangers in the region. The plan worked. Seeing an erupting volcano on the country's own postage stamp convinced many legislators to switch sides, and Congress voted to go the Panama route instead. So yes, a tiny postage stamp helped determine where one of the world's most important canals was built. 13. EFO Stamps. In the world of stamp collecting, there is one special category that can get any enthusiast's heart racing: EFOs. Errors, freaks, and oddities. These are stamps that are produced with mistakes and flaws that somehow slip past quality control. I'm talking misprints, missing colors, typos, inverted images, or stamps cut in the wrong shape. The errors are completely accidental, of course, but they're also absolute gold to philatelists because of their rarity. EFOs often end up being worth far more than their correctly printed counterparts. The combination of scarcity and the stories behind each mistake makes EFOs not only fascinating, but also invaluable in the stamp collecting world. One printing error can take a regular piece of postage and turn it into a treasure worth thousands or even millions of dollars. 12. Anti-Alcoholism Stamp. The USPS had good intentions when they released a stamp to raise awareness about alcoholism in 1981. The slogan, "Alcoholism, you can beat it," was supposed to be an inspirational part of their public health campaign. But there was one problem that absolutely no one on the team anticipated. People didn't want to use the stamp. Putting it on an envelope made it seem like the sender was sending the wrong message. Some thought it would imply the recipient had a drinking problem, and no one wanted that accusation, or that awkward conversation. Imagine sending your grandma a card only to accidentally call her a lush. It would be embarrassing for both you and her. This led to poor sales, and the stamp didn't go very far. It's now remembered as a cautionary tale in postal history not to repeat this kind of misstep. 11. US Stamps. Are you aware that the United States has a strict rule that no one who is living can appear on a postage stamp? Not only that, but a person has to be deceased for at least 10 years before they're eligible to be featured. This ensures stamp subjects have at least some historical significance and aren't just passing trends. Now, there is only one exception to this rule. Former US presidents can be honored on a piece of postage as soon as 1 year after their death. This allows the nation to pay a timely tribute to the leader while also maintaining the classic historic distance. This practice has been around for decades and is strictly observed. It ensures that only those who have stood the test of time receive this high honor. There go my ideas for a Mike with List 25 stamp. Damn. 10. Dag Hammarskjöld Invert Stamp. In 1962, the U.S. Postal Service issued a stamp honoring the late Secretary General of the United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld. During printing, a small batch came out with the background inverted. It was a mistake that had the EFO crowd taking notice. But the USPS had other plans. When they discovered the mistake, they made a decision that shocked the stamp collecting world. They deliberately reprinted the stamp with the exact same inverted yellow background error and flooded the market with millions of copies. Now, why would they do such a thing? Well, by intentionally creating more errors, the government agency ensured the original mistake would never become an expensive rarity. This kept collecting accessible to the average person. It was a bold move that remains one of the most famous and controversial stamp incidents in postal history. 9. Cinderella Stamps. There's one category in the stamp world that doesn't get much respect or much attention from serious collectors. They may look like official postage, but they can't be used to mail anything. They're called Cinderella Stamps. These are those lovely decorative stamps that are created by businesses, political campaigns, churches, nonprofit organizations, and charities. They're often used for promotions, raising awareness, and fundraising, and are great for advertising. However, they often hold little value beyond what you paid for them out of pocket. Much like our fairy tale princess, Cinderella, these stamps are beautiful, well-designed, and stunningly detailed, but they're not invited to the ball. The official postal services don't accept them, and traditional collectors consider them vastly inferior because they don't have any postal function. Will you find people with books of these types of stamps? Sure, they occupy their own niche of folks who love them for their whimsy. But for the most part, you won't see them being auctioned off for the big bucks. 8. North Korean Guiana Stamps. North Korea isn't exactly famous for wanting too much to do with the Western world, let alone the royal families. But in 1982, they made an exception that surprised everyone. The nation issued a series of postage stamps depicting Princess Diana and Prince Charles to commemorate their 1981 wedding. The stamps featured portraits of the newlyweds and are a fascinating example of Princess Diana's global reach and influence. She was the people's princess through and through, even in the isolated world of North Korea. Not only did the country's leaders commission the stamps, but they also held celebrations to mark the royal event. Whether the stamps were made to serve the country's ongoing propaganda campaigns, or simply for public interest, or to capitalize on global fascinations with the couple, it remains one of the most bizarre moments in North Korea's postal history. 7. Swedish Postage Stamp. In 1855, Sweden accidentally created one of the world's most valuable stamps, and it's all thanks to a printing mistake. This is one of the ultimate EFOs. The 3-skilling yellow was supposed to be printed in green, but somehow it came off the press yellow instead. This error made it a one-of-a-kind stamp that collectors have obsessed over ever since. The extreme rarity has made it one of the most sought-after collectibles in history. The value has skyrocketed over the years, with a current estimated worth of over $3.14 million. It's one of the most expensive postal rarities that has ever been sold. One simple printing error turned a regular piece of postage into a legendary artifact worth a fortune. 6. Secret language of stamps. The way a stamp is placed on an envelope may seem random to most, but to people who are deep into the lore, every placement has a meaning. It's a bit of a secret language, if you will. For instance, one of the most famous codes is that if you place your stamp upside down, it means, I love you. It's a truly subtle way to send a romantic message without anyone catching on. Beyond love notes, the orientation is served as a form of covert communication, protest, and political commentary in various cultures. This makes sense if you think about the days before the internet and email, when putting pen to paper and mailing a letter was the most used form of long-distance communication. The coding system hides right there in plain sight, and even the way the stamp is tilted could have a meaning. The next time you get mail, make sure to check out how the sender placed the stamp. It could be a hint about what the envelope contains. 5. Angus McDonagh's fake stamps. Our final 5 fun facts kick off with a quirky story of how Angus McDonagh became an overnight celebrity in England in 2013. At the time, Angus was a self-proclaimed anarchist, and he decided he was done paying for postage. His solution was to create over 50 fake stamps with his face on them. He went all out with the project and decked himself out for the occasion. His stamps featured him in funny hats, eye patches, and even Santa beards. In a wild twist, his plan worked. McDonagh mailed over 100 letters all over the world using his collection. Only one ever returned. He even managed to get a letter all the way to Australia. When caught, McDonagh claimed he started making the fakes to protest the tasteless official stamps at the time and the decline of stamp sales in general. At first, he intentionally made them strange and weird to make it clear they were fakes. But as time went on, he found this whole situation ridiculous. The British postal authorities were not happy. They even issued a statement calling it a crime and promising to take the steps necessary to prevent these types of shenanigans from ever happening again. Damn, there really goes my mic with those 25 stamps. 4. Naked Maja Stamp. In 1930, Spain pushed some serious boundaries when the government issued a series of stamps featuring Francisco Goya's famous painting, The Naked Maja. The artwork depicts a fully nude woman reclining on a couch in a quite seductive position. It's considered a masterpiece today, but at the time, it was deemed far too provocative for polite society. When these stamps made their way across the ocean to the US, the USPS flat out refused to accept just about any letters and packages that used them. They deemed the imagery highly inappropriate and began sending letters right back. It was quite the incident and highlighted the vast cultural differences between Spain and America. 3. Franking privilege. Free postage is just one of the many perks of being a member of Congress in the USA. Once you're elected, you get to send mail for free. Well, sort of. It's a benefit called franking privilege, and it's been around since the founding of the country. Members of Congress simply sign their envelopes in a designated area and drop them in the mail. No payment required. This was set up to make it easier for elected officials to communicate with their constituents. In theory, it's supposed to strengthen the connection between the people and the politicians. There are some pretty strict rules about how the franking privilege is used, however. It's only for official business, it cannot be used to mail out campaign materials, and no, you cannot use it for personal correspondence. This is solely to share information on public services, provide government updates, and share information on legislative matters. Critics have a lot to say about the practice, though. They argue it gives incumbents an unfair advantage since they can openly communicate with voters without it costing their office a dime. 2. Mailing kids. Our second to last fun fact touches on one of the most unhinged ways regular people have used the mail service. This isn't about sending out packages or mass mailing letters. This is the strange practice of mailing your children. Yeah, you heard me right. One of the first documented cases of this strange occurrence happened in Batavia, Ohio in 1913. The parents of a sweet, nearly 11-pound baby decided he needed to see his grandmother. Instead of spending money putting the infant on a train, they paid 15 cents for postage, insured the little one for $50, and dropped the baby off at the post office. The boy was carried by mail truck and was treated as a special parcel. The parents were successful in their little venture, with the baby arriving safe and sound. This kicked off a bit of a trend of other caregivers simply mailing children back and forth between family members, and lasted until 1920, when the Postal Service shut this practice down. 1. Reuse of a stamp. Have you ever wondered if you could reuse a stamp? Well, the answer is absolutely not. At least, not here in the US. There's no reduce, reuse, recycle when it comes to postage. Trying to double dip is considered mail fraud. If you get caught, just know that it's treated as a felony under federal law. This doesn't just apply to when someone tries to reuse a canceled stamp on a different piece of mail, or if they intentionally remove and reapply the postage. It's illegal, and the violation can be anything from a fine to spending time in jail. The law was designed to protect the postal system's revenue and integrity. The Postal Service in Britain may have missed a man using his own image to fake postage, but the American Postal Service isn't about to let anything slide. Well, everyone, that wraps this one up. Which fact caught you off guard? The history is full of creative codes, protests, and strange decisions, some of which seems too bizarre to be real, doesn't it? So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out 25 inventions that are way older than you think. It's packed with some pretty jaw-dropping facts that will have you checking dates twice. I'll link it in the description below, and it'll appear here in just a few minutes. But before you go, actually seconds, don't wait minutes, it'll pop up soon, I promise. But before you go, let's test your knowledge with a little trivia. What year was the world's first adhesive postage stamp issued? A. 1835, B. 1840, C. 1845, or D. 1850? Make sure to pop those answers in the comments as well. And now that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content and become an amazing fun fact expert. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Gonna go mail a letter.